When it came to making the record, was this all in your mind beforehand? Or
Yeah,
what,
I don't know if the record I made talks about this. It's just stuff that I thought about, you know, and I come up with titles, or these are things I think about. So obviously they get inside the lyrics in one way or another. But I don't set out to say something in a record or make like I don't make a goal of, I make more of a sound goal.
Okay.
What a record should feel like. So I do a lot of research, and then when I found Turn Into the Noise, that tune, then that's when I figured out how to make the album feel.
Right.
But it's more of a feeling for me, music. It's not so literal.
Was that the first song you wrote that ended up on the record?
It's either that or Love Songs. I don't know which one came first. Okay. One or the other.
But you said that then with...
I think Love Songs for Robots came first. I did this weird intro for a film. I was working on a science fiction film, then it gave me this idea, and then I started, but then it's either Love Songs for Robots or Turn to the Noise. It's one or the other. I can't remember.
With Turn to the Noise, you say after that song, the rest kind of gravitated towards that feeling of that?
I just knew that, like, the one thing I liked about it was live. Well, I did a lot of pre-production in electronics, and when I gave him to the drummer to cue with his real drums, because everything on the record's live off the floor. There's almost no overdubs.
Okay.
So we did.
Any reason in particular to do this?
Well, we just did so much pre-prod and so much work that when we got to the studio, we could just perform it without, and then you don't have to fix anything after.
Right.
And just like Turn to Noise from like halfway on, it's just live. There's no like million overdubs. There's like one or two overdubs and everything. So it's all in performance. You're not sitting drawing things in Pro Tools.
Right, right.
So I thought that was great, and it's fun. I could sing live and be in the moment and react to the moment instead of like singing and then coloring it and then, you know.
Is this record the first time you did it that way?
We've done a lot of live performances. Never this live though. Never like where the whole thing, no overdubs and no like, just really. I mean, Bollywood is the rough mix up to the day we recorded it.
Okay.
So it's like that's 6 hours after we recorded. That's the mix.
Can you, when you listen back to it, can you hear this kind of immediacy or something?
Yeah, you don't hear me drawing out the volumes and everything, like, because when you start mixing in Pro Tools, it's hard to leave a sound too loud. Like you end up just, and which is okay, but if you're doing that everywhere, every time something's a little too loud or a little too quiet, it starts becoming really neutral. So doing these live takes kind of made it a bit more like organic and natural, and like, so Bollywood, when it gets too loud in the middle section, it gets too loud, or when there's a guitar note that's too loud. But for the listener, it's really fun.
Right.
And if I would have penciled those out, it becomes more monotonous, more controlled and boring.
And well, you mentioned the visual aspect you have with music before, and then obviously you've made you contributed to soundtracks a lot, and so this cinematic quality is this something that you think about while writing? Are there images in your mind?
It's kind of like a taste thing for me. Like when the cover does a really good job. Like we had the cover very early on in this record, and the cover does a really good job of the color scheme of like what it's supposed to. It's almost more like a taste thing for me.
Right.
Like eating a food, it just tastes like a certain way.
Okay.
And it comes with visuals that help find it, but it's more of an overall like taste.
So kind of like a feeling or a vibe.
Yeah, it's like a thing on your tongue. Like I can almost taste the record in a weird way. For me, it's a mix.
Does it stay the same then through the entire process, or does it change?
I try to once I have like a fix like that, and I'm like, then I try to make a record with that taste, you know. And I try. This record has a couple of things like "Alone in This World," which leaves it, and then you have like. Oh, there's a really nice song, "Curtains," I shouldn't have taken away, but that was a bit different. But anyways.
Why did you take it away, Curtains?
I don't know if it helped the record as a full listen.
Is this? Well, I ask this often. Is this then do you search for cohesion in the songs a lot?
Well, at the end you got to pace the record, and I do like to put out a record that you can listen to the whole thing and enjoy it. So sometimes you have to make cuts. So like other songs don't get too heavy, and then you have to make decisions of what kind of record you want to put out, which songs are important for you. And the order of the songs really changed the vibe of the tunes. Like Good Morning Mr. Wolf was supposed to be first,
okay,
but it didn't work first. It was too obnoxious, and just you didn't have time to settle into the record. So Love Songs was originally cut, and we brought it back because it opened up the record better. you know. So
So, but then love songs. If the song didn't make it to the album, would the title still be the same?
yes,
Okay. So the title was already.
yeah, I like that title.
Okay. Well, where did you come up with it?
I don't remember. I was. I was like listening to a lot of electronic music because I like electronic music. I love the textures. There's a lot of things I love about it, but I find it sometimes a little chilly. So I thought it's a good title to warm it up, you know.
Right.
It was kind of a reaction to that, like listening to stuff like James Blake, even, you know, like where it's like beautiful music, beautiful arrangements, beautiful ideas. It still sounds cold to me in some way, like
Right.
disconnected from something. And even though I love it, like it's not a criticism, it's just a reaction, you know.
And so that's something you try to avoid, in a sense, in your own music then?
I don't try to avoid anything. I just react. I mean, when I play piano, I just play piano.
Okay.
I don't think in my head, I'm avoiding this or.
Okay.
Often, like music, you just sit down and you start playing and play things that make you feel good. You know, it's not. So you have all these things in your head, and so obviously they influence what you're playing, but they don't. It's not like what you think about when you're playing. When you
Right.
think about playing, you just think about playing. You just enjoy it. You just play those notes, and you're like, oh, that feels good. Oh, that melody feels good. Saying that word feels good. You know what I mean? It doesn't. I'm not an intellectual when I write.
Right.
I'm a big dummy.
So is that generally how you start a song then? Just to start with a couple of notes on the piano or a melody in your head, or?
Yeah, something like that. But I mean, the band guys write some stuff too. You know, like Alone in This World came from Joe. Mishka, the Hearts, had the chord progression, the idea, and then I sang over it and it felt good, and then we worked on it. I mean, I think when you write, you're trying to drug yourself, you know, like it's like smoking, you're trying to smoke a joint. You're trying to like make something that makes you trip out and makes you feel good, you know?
Right.
Like, that's all you do, you know, like, you don't, then you have to write words, and then you say a couple words, and you're like, I love those words, and then you got to make sense of them and fill in the gaps, and then you got to start thinking, why did I want to say those words, you know? And then you start, then that's where the intellectual process starts to happen. But the initialization is very visceral. It's just very like, man, I just feel like doing this noise, you know? Like,
So the lyrics in that sense then, say now there's probably been a couple of weeks or months since the album has been finished, so if you listen back to it, do the words mean something different now?
yeah, I'm never like too crazy about my words because for me, I usually do a lot of improvising when I sing in words, and then I'm not like a Bob Dylan, sit down and write it out and be like, it's not my strength either. I think there's some moments where I'm like, oh, those are great. That's a really good moment in the words. Some moments I'm like, oh, that's really stupid. You know, in hindsight. But ultimately, the music I make is more about the delivery than the words. And I think half of the lyrics are in the arrangement of the music. So,
Right.
do you know what I mean? I'm not a. I'm more of an instrument. It's almost like instrumental music with singing. You know, I'm not. Sometimes the words are good, and they're not like the stupid words. I spend months on the words to try to make them as best. It's what I spend the most time on. But
Right.
ultimately, I think, in the end, it's really the intention and the way the words come out of your mouth that makes the biggest difference.
Are the lyrics in that sense then personal to you? Because I went through them, and then there's some subject matter that seems personal, but.
Yeah, I guess yes and no. Like whenever I sing "I," though, I usually mean us.
Right.
I don't think about myself when I sing the word "I." I usually think of other people as like a thing. So it's not like a diary.
Right. So more universal thoughts.
It's more universal, and I always assume when I sing for an audience, when I say the word "I," everybody says "I" at the same time. So it's personal and at the same time, no, but you know what I mean?
Well, because I wrote some lyrics down, but then we'll
Sure, go ahead.
Well, there was one I found quite interesting. Get lost till it feels right, and
Oh, know that you know.
the lyric was, the only thing you need to fear is shaking hands with the man in the mirror, which struck me. And where did this line come from?
It comes from a Dr. Seuss.
Okay.
That Places You Will Go is I read the Places You Will. It's called Places You Will Go to my kids, and while I was reading it, I've been reading a lot of Dr. Seuss to my kids, and honestly, he's one of the most. He's so intelligent, and the way he approaches subjects. some of the deepest messages I've read in books has been from Dr. Seuss. Like there's this one called Horton Hears a Who, and it's like it's like a speck of dust. This elephant keeps on hearing voices. He's like, I hear voices on a speck of dust, and nobody around him believes him. He's like, no, there's really people on it. And then slowly he starts communicating with a speck of dust and realizes there's a town and there's all these people. And everybody around him's like, no, there's nobody on it. And then they get mad at him because he cares about the speck of the dust. So they try to take it away and put it in hot boiling tar, which is really dark. And it's a whole town with kids in it.
Right.
So it's very, sometimes, you know, like, it's dedicated to a Japanese guy, which I find really interesting because of the Japanese culture of being multi-generational. And it's a very intelligent guy. Like, in places you will go seems some of just the little tips it gives to, even to the adult reading it, and to the boy nonetheless.